All right, it's time for Sunday Fast Break. Once again, joined by our analyst this season, Cory Bradford. Cory, great to see you again joining us from Florida. I hope it's a little warmer down there than it is here in Champaign. But I'm curious, Cory, you've played during this COVID-type environment. Illinois coming off this COVID pause. What are the keys here for them as they try and get back in it? The game's supposed to be tonight, but then postponed now until Tuesday.
Well, I think just continue to be focused. And obviously with this COVID thing, you just never know what's going to happen. You can only focus on your group, your team, and you can only wish that other schools will, follow the guidelines as well, so you don't have another postpone.
How tough is that mentally, maybe more than physically, or is it physically because they've been off for a week plus now? How do you kind of get back into both sides of the game?
Well, I think it would take a lot of scrimmaging and practice, a lot of game simulation type situations that they would do in games. I think that would help. And obviously, this can be a key for them as well, especially with guys with nagging injuries they may have. It's good for rest, but obviously you don't want to rest too long because it throws off rhythm. But let's just pray that, this game don't get canceled, get pushed back again.
Yeah, Tuesday at Minnesota. We'll see if the Illini can get going and get back into the rhythm. And as we turn into the new year in 2022, Cory, overall, just what do you think of what you've seen this team at 9-3 and really shown some high moments and what they can be? I think of Arizona in that sense. I think of taking care of a Missouri team that they were just clearly better than, and that's what good teams do, right? They take care of business. What are your overall thoughts here as we turn to the new year?
Well, obviously, going to the Big Ten season, you want to look at that as a whole new season for the guys. Obviously, going into it 2-0, which is great. And obviously, winning right before Christmas break, beating Missouri, putting a whoop on them, that's always a pleasure, always a plus. And it's always a good feeling to help that rhythm going into the Big Ten season. And I think, the high side of these guys is that they continue to get better and better. Let's just hope they continue to shoot the ball well as a group. Kofi down low is obviously making strides and doing things better. And what's making him so dangerous that he's starting to pass the ball at the post a lot more consistently, which is making him a huge threat. And I think all around they continue that, doing that consistently, that I think the Big Ten season should be a pretty good go for them.
When you turn that new calendar year, do you remember that being like a reset, like you're kind of saying? Mentally, what does that do for you when you can just say, okay, the non-conference is behind us. Now we know we've got 18 grinders here in the Big Ten schedule to try and go win a title, which is what their goal is this season.
Exactly, because, the Big Ten is different. It's the reason why it's one of the top three, conferences in the country right now. The season starts now. As we say, when the Big Ten rolls around, the season starts now. We can't worry about the games in the past. We have to look forward, take it one game at a time, one step at a time, continue to hold each other accountable, and just go out there and just compete because, you have to win the games at home, protect home by any means. And also you got to win the games that you should win on the road and hopefully sneak those games on the road. But as we know in the Big Ten, you can get beat at any given night.
What do you remember about being a team that was really high up there in the Big Ten? You guys expected to win Big Ten titles, and you did. How much pressure was that throughout the season, and how did you manage that as you went throughout the year and knew that the target was on your back?
Well, during my time, as we know, Michigan State was their team to beat. And I think once we took that throne from them, that target is always on your back. You're always going to get that best shot from those teams, even those teams that are not good. Guys are going to make shots that normally don't make shots. Guys are going to make plays that normally don't make plays. So you can basically just throw certain scouting reports out the window. Just expect the unexpected. Guys going to gun for you. And when you're one of the top teams in the Big Ten, you got to expect that every night.
It seems like this team has played almost better, Cory, in a sense, when they've been the underdog, so to speak. Why do you think that is, that maybe when the spotlight has been on them, they haven't necessarily risen to the occasion? I say that hesitantly. They won the Big Ten tournament title last year. I don't want to take that away from them.
Right.
But why do you think that for some reason this team, at least in my outside perspective, seems to play better when, they're trying to hunt instead of being the hunted, so to speak?
Well, it's always easy because, when you don't have that target on your back, when you have that hunger, when you don't get that respect, when you don't get that publicity that you think you deserve, you always go out there to try to prove those wrong. That's always easy. Now, the toughest part is when you're on that that pedestal and teams are gunning for you. You have to maintain that consistency and go out there and win and play hard each and every single night, which in the Big Ten, like I keep saying, is extremely, extremely tough.
You mentioned Kofi Cockburn. For me, he is that key. And if he can pass out of the post and you can continue to have the shooting that Trent Frazier and Alfonso Plummer bring, to me, that's the key. How important will that be for Kofi to do that? And how much tougher will that be, in a sense, when you start seeing some Zach Edey's and, Travion Williams and the big guys in the Big Ten and what they do?
Well, I mean, we've been seeing Kofi getting double teamed, sometimes triple team in the post, and you can't be that black hole. And again, with the game plan of Illinois is that they do a great job of continuing to pounding down low and giving him the ball, giving him opportunities to score, creating those double teams so he can kick it out to hot shooters like Plummer, as we know has really been consistently knocking that thing down lately. So I think that's a good recipe for the Illini, and I think they continue to do that. And then if Kofi can step out and hit a couple mid-range jumpers, it's going to be scary. It's definitely be scary.
What's that mix, though, Cory? Because I've heard Brad Underwood talk at the same point of not trying to do too much. Like Kofi's bread and butter is down low, right? Just stick to your game in a sense.
Right.
How much are you looking for him to pass out in that? Is this a couple of times a game? More than that? Like, what's your ideal balance for having that mix with Kofi, both passing out and yet not taking away from what he does, and that's bang down low?
Well, it just comes from just taking what the defense gives you, and I think Kofi's been doing that. I don't think he's been forcing an issue, trying to score with two guys for the case, and I think he's just noticing it. Sometimes he'll get the ball initially, kick it back out, repost, get better position, create that double team once again, look weak side, and guys been doing a great job of being huge targets for him and having confidence in knocking it down. Because you got guards out there that's knocking the thing down consistently. You got a big guy that's going to continue to feed you.
There may not be anyone that knows it better in Illini history than you. What are those feelings like for Alfonso Plummer or Trent Frazier when they are able to knock those shots down? How big does that bucket look in that sense?
It's huge. Anytime you guys got an outside threat with such dominant inside presence with Kofi, I mean, it's no way you can match up with it. I think the only challenge with these guys, I don't think it's offensively. I think the challenge will be defensively as a whole. Not being in foul trouble, not getting big fella in foul trouble, because you need him down low because of he's averaging a little bit under a block a game, but he's a big threat in altering shots and making things such compacted down low and stuff. And then you got Trent, who's a dog on the ball and off the ball. And you got Plummer. You got some athletic guys on the perimeter and stuff that's really doing a great job getting past the lanes. And we're big, long, deep, and I think from a consistent standpoint, we continue to do that. It'd be a tough team to handle in the Big Ten.
What are those next steps defensively? We've seen turnovers hurt them. We've seen this team force some turnovers, conversely, on the other side of the ball. What are those next steps for them that you've seen for them to be able to really make that push back, not only to a top 25 team, but into one of the best teams in the Big Ten, which, if they are, they're going to be in the top 10 regardless?
Well, just stick to their bread and butter. Like I said, continue to feed off Kofi. Continue to capitalize off of defensive stops so we can carry on to offense, make open shots, get good ball and body movement, trust each other, continue to trust each other, hold each other accountable, as I always mention, and choose your hard. I told these guys when I spoke to them, you have to choose your hard because, this thing is never easy. When you don't communicate, it's going to make it even harder, on the floor. So you have to communicate, have to be there for each other, hold each other accountable, have each other's back. And just take it one game at a time. That's all that matters right now.
All right, we'll see if they can get it done coming up here. A busy couple of months as we now can maybe start to think towards March. I know, Cory, as a player, did you think about that? I mean, as someone in the media, I'm always thinking about March, right? Hey, what can this team be in March? You say take it one game at a time. As a player, is that harder to do? Like, how do you process all that?
Well, we broke things down. Like I said, in the 2 seasons, the Big Ten is basically when the season starts. And we figure if we do extremely well and do what we're expected to do in the Big Ten, March will pretty much handle itself, and all these guys have to do is go out there and compete, play hard, and the wins and losses always take care of themselves.
All right, good stuff. Cory Bradford, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you here in a couple weeks. That's the hope, as he's going to be back in town for that Michigan and Purdue back-to-back on a Friday, Monday. I, for one, can't wait for that. It's going to be a fun time. Cory, Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.